I'd like to thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. Would you mind please introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your business and your background?
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, my name is Scott Sobol. I work with CompuTuners Computer Services. I've been working on computers for about, I would say, 15 years professionally. We do basically everything, almost everything with a computer you can imagine, which would be fixing them, setting them up, doing networking, doing custom builds, we also do website design and maintenance and, development and things of that sort. It all started from basically when I was young and I would have friends that would go to a place like, a retail store, we'll say. I won't say names, but they would have a crummy situation where their computer died and the place wouldn't know what they were doing properly. So I did start my own business after I ended up helping one of my friends. And I was able to do it quickly, and obviously I didn't charge them very much because I wasn't doing it as a business at that point, but it really got me into working on computers, fixing them, helping people out. I love what I do. This isn't like a job for me. It was really technically a hobby turned into a business. So I love what I do.
So, for those out there who may not know, what exactly is e-waste?
E-waste is technically something electric, like an electric product, such as a television, computer, stereo, printer, any basically almost anything with like a board in it. But that's really what it comes down to. It's reached its end of use for your needs specifically.
What do you do with these machines once a customer hands them over to you?
In terms of how they're recycled and whatnot, they get basically broken down into the components of what makes them up, such as like copper, aluminum, circuit boards, and things like that. We started our own separate division, which is called Cycle It, which specifically specializes in taking in unused computers, things of that sort, so that we can properly organize it, and then we sort it out and bring it to someone who professionally manages or breaks it down and into several components.
Why is it important to properly dispose of an electronic device as opposed to just throwing it in your regular trash can?
Well, there's several reasons for that. There's not one specific answer to that, other than there are security reasons for that. Whereas, like if you're disposing of a device that has your private information, personal information, credit card numbers, social security information, things that you've logged into, passwords, and all that kind of all those things. There's also the fact that if they don't get recycled, either it's going to sit in your home or your business for forever, or it's going to go to a waste facility where it will be probably improperly handled because of the way they just go to a landfill essentially. And once it gets into a landfill, there can be very harmful components in a electronic device that can be harmful to the environment, essentially, such as like lead and mercury. And they can get into the ground, into the ground, into the environment, and it can be incredibly harmful. And it takes thousands of years for anything of that sort to break down to the point where it means nothing. It's not incredibly difficult to do, and that's also another reason why we've done this. It's not like a big hassle to. I mean, the most complicated part is putting it in your car and bringing it to us. It's actually the law to recycle, which is obviously another important, you shouldn't want to recycle just because it's the law, but it's just another fact to add on.
A question we get from time to time is it safe to hand your electronic devices over to an e-recycler, and what sort of things should a consumer be looking for when choosing an e-recycler?
Right, because it really depends on who you're going to. We have an established store and business here. We've been here for many years. If you look us up online, we have over 500 reviews on Google. And I'm not trying to, I'm just trying to give you an example because reviews are very big nowadays in terms of, credibility. And I would only bring it to someone who has either a certification or some sort of way of showing their credibility, honestly. And it all comes down to, if it's a computer or device that has data on it, you really want to especially be safe about who you're bringing it to. And you would need to ask if they're going to properly destroy anything that has your data on it.
So that actually leads me into my next question. What do you do when someone brings you a machine that may still have sensitive data on it?
first of all, we ask the customer, is there anything on here that you do need? Because sometimes they bring it in, they haven't used the device in 20 years, or not 20 years, but maybe 5 years. But they might be like, oh, wait, actually, I just thought there's a lot of pictures of my family on there that I want. So that would be handled a little bit differently than somebody who just wants to throw something out or get rid of it. I shouldn't say throw something out, I should say recycle. But if they don't have any data on the computer that needs to be backed up, we would pull the drive out of the computer, strip down the computer to all the individual components, motherboard, RAM, processor, all that kind of, all those things. And then essentially we would take the drive, and depending on what type of drive it is, it would be crushed properly to the point where, you can literally see the bits and pieces of the hard drive. It's to the point where it's unrecoverable by literally anyone.
Since you said you have about 15 years in the business, what sort of trends have you noticed with e-waste? It just doesn't seem like things are made to last anymore.
What it comes down to as a trend in general, as you said, devices, especially things like printers, seem to be becoming more disposable at this point, where they don't last as long also. And obviously when something doesn't last as long, you have to throw it out faster. And I keep saying throw out, but I don't really mean throw out. I mean, in your head, you're throwing it out, but really it's recycling. But that's really the biggest trend that I see. It is, things don't last as long. Computers, thankfully, last pretty long as long as you handle them properly. If you're taking a laptop and bashing it around all the time, it's not going to last. But in general, the computers seem to last as long, not things like printers.
We always like to end our interviews with a piece of advice. So what would your advice be to someone who still isn't e-recycling their electronic devices?
It's the same thing as recycling anything else. And I say this in a respectful manner. I don't mean this in any sort of rude way. It's not just my planet, it's not just your planet, but we should all be responsible and do the right thing for our planet, because it is really our responsibility by the fact that we live here. It's like you should do your part and properly recycle things, or else it's gonna come back to bite us in the future. I read online that it says if Americans recycled the phones that they threw out every year, and this is just Americans, they could save enough energy to power 24,000 homes. That's kind of a crazy fact, and that's just phones. And the honest truth is, people lead busy lives, so not everybody's sitting here thinking about recycling, but it is important to think about it. And it's through people asking questions like yourself that people learn about these kinds of things. So I do respect that, and I appreciate you asking, and I'm happy to inform people. And as a matter of fact, even when we go on site to do computer services, we always ask the customer, do you have any old devices that you want to get rid of, that you want to recycle properly? Because we can handle that for you, and we never charge for something like that, because we feel like it's our responsibility as IT people to make sure that things are recycled properly. It's just part of what we do, and we're happy to do that.